Okay, first item on the agenda is the closed session portion of the meeting. May I have a mover and seconder to go into closed session under the authorities as printed in the agenda? Councillor Brand. Councillor Gladden. All in favor? All hands rising, motion's carried. Okay, council approved the closed session minutes from December 5th and December 12th, and council discussed personal matters. We do have to go back into closed session after the meeting. Okay, time being 7 p.m., I'd like to call this meeting to order. First item on the agenda is the traditional territory acknowledgement, followed by a moment of silence. The Council of the Township of Red Rock hereby acknowledges that we are on the traditional territory of the Robinson Superior Treaty, and that the land we gather on is home to the Red Rock Indian Band, the Anishinaabe, and the Métis people. Administration advises there are no amendments to the agenda. Do any members of council wish to make amendments to the agenda? Seeing none, can I have a mover and seconder for motion to approve the agenda as presented? Councillor Gladden, Councillor Smith, all in favor? All hands rising, motion's carried. Are there any declarations of interest to disclose? Seeing none. Tonight we have the director, Dan Bevilacqua. You're from Superior Country to present the annual report. Sorry, Dan. I practice.
Hello, everyone. I'm Dan Bevilacqua, the Executive Director of Ontario Superior Country. We are your local destination marketing organization. We promote the region, basically the District of Thunder Bay, although we also promote some items out of that catchment area, and we're most well known for the Lake Superior Circle Tour and our promotions and development of that tour. Today, I have an annual report that was sent to you. Superior Country recently hosted its annual general meeting this past November. As such, we know that lots of councillors can't make those types of meetings, so we like to send the annual report. So it has been provided, and I like to just be present in case there is any questions, or if anybody would like any clarification on some of the things that we reported on. Just as a very brief recap of the annual report, it covers many of our key performance indicators that we work within. We're happy to report that we exceeded most, if not all. We spent about $200,000 to $300,000 in advertising the region this past fiscal year. Moving forward from that, something that wasn't reported on is we're actually working in erecting 2 billboards on the highway outside of Red Rock, directing people to Red Rock as the new Lake Superior Circle Tour headquarters. So very excited for that. And another part of the of our meeting today, or our deputation to council, I guess you can call it, is we recently worked on a group of 7 strategy for the area. Originally, we had wanted to expand on some of the panels, the easels that were developed across the North Shore. Some of you may be aware of them. Through the strategy, we recognized that we couldn't really build upon that. It was already done. However, we did come across an opportunity to promote Norval more so as part of the Indigenous group of 7. He was inspired by pictographs at a young age to formulate his artwork. So we are looking at actually erecting a copper thunderbird in the region. And we're very excited to say that we want to look at Red Rock as the location to install such an attraction. Specifically because if it were to be done down here at the marina, looking past the copper thunderbird are the pictographs themselves. We're working very closely with Sandpoint First Nation and Norval Morso's estate. Things are going extremely well. So we just wanted to bring this to the attention of mayor and council. It's very preliminary at this stage where in your package, we did provide some photos of what we anticipate it may look like. And just wanted to bring it to your attention and see if there was any thoughts or feedback. I realize that this is something that would probably be directed to staff. But we did want to bring it to mayor and council, just to show you guys what we're working on and to build upon our existing relationship. That's it from me, unless you have any questions.
Any questions? Councillor Brand?
So just looking at the picture here, would this be the area where we have the viewfinders? Is this that area? Or is this a different location?
That would be a different location. Now, this is just a concept drawing. Locations can be varied and looked at. This was just a concept where we have these drawings were based off of the location that's past the viewing binoculars, where I believe there once was a community garden. If you're walking north on the boardwalk on your right-hand side, there's a little opening area of grass, so it wouldn't affect marshland or anything like that. The reason we had looked at that area and the reason we didn't put that forward was because we didn't want to block any more of the view from this building towards the lake. And then also that area, if you see the dimensions, this attraction is quite large and it stands almost about 6 feet tall. So we didn't want to put it right near those panels. And then we also didn't want to disrupt the view that you already have from the interpretive center. You have the little scopes with the editorial. That point there, if we were to put it there, it would block that view from inside of the interpretive center.
Councillor Smith?
Sorry, through you, Madam Chair. Yes, we have had participation from Red Rock. Superior Country actually applies for and ends up getting several summer students that it then gives to municipalities across the region, Red Rock being one of them. So we did supply Red Rock with one summer student in the months of July and August. That student, as part of us supplying that student, we make it mandatory that they attend the familiarization tour. We also made the familiarization tour open to all municipalities to send additional students if they'd like to. Red Rock didn't send any additional ones. I believe staffing issues and having people on site was the primary reason for that. And Red Rock was a part of the tour for the familiarization tour. So all those students did come to Red Rock and see the attractions and the interpretive center and actually went up for a hike to Lloyd's Lookout.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, Councillor Smith.
There we go. In the package as well, there was talk about what was it? The inside passage development. Did you have any more feedback about that and stops? I know there was a mention, I think, in their package between 2023 and 2024, a few stops, but didn't talk about Red Rock. I was just kind of curious.
Through you, Madam Chair, forgive me. The inside passage, are you referring to the cycling feasibility plan?
Well, no, it was from, unless I misread it, which could have happened, with regards to cruise ships.
Oh, okay. And in regards to the cruise ships, we are currently working on a cruise ship market readiness plan. It is close to completion. Red Rock is a major aspect of that plan. We have interest from multiple cruise lines, Red Rock being the primary location of interest. We are hoping to have multiple visits this upcoming year from Viking Cruises in Red Rock. And then in the fall of this upcoming year, a cruise line from France, we are anticipating having a couple from them, sorry, not this upcoming fall, but the fall of 2024. Red Rock is definitely a part of that cruise ship plan. The North Shore Inside Passage, yes, and is a primary location being where it's situated and having a full service marina. One thing to keep in mind is these ships do not come directly into port. We've worked closely with your community development officer, Ashley Davis, in ensuring that Red Rock meets the standards to accept these vessels as well. And travelers would disembark from the vessel into Red Rock in way of tenders and or Zodiacs. And then we are in works of developing packages for them to then take part in. Those packages would involve activities here in Red Rock, as well as activities in Nipigon and the surrounding areas.
When you say multiple, do you have a rough estimate of numbers, or is it still just kind of fairly vague?
It's difficult to say at this time. What I have learned in doing this, we're very new to cruise ships. What we have learned in doing this, though, is that they are very last minute and all of a sudden need everything right away. So one day we hear one thing and then the next day we hear another. Right now, we have heard anywhere between 3 and 7 visits from Viking Cruises, the same cruise ship that you have probably seen in the news visiting Thunder Bay and Silver Islet. So anywhere between 3 and 7 of those this upcoming summer, and then 2 additional in the fall of 2024 from a from a France cruise line. Again, it's difficult to say, and we're working on 11 different cruise ships. We actually had that fam tour come through with decision makers from 9 different cruise lines. So we are working on attracting more while working with those who have already shown interest. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? So your general meeting, were you presented with an award that night?
Our annual general meeting was held during the Northern Ontario Tourism Summit. It was a 3-day summit, and at one of those meetings, myself and Superior Country as a whole was presented with a marketing award for our work in the region. Yes.
Well, congratulations. I just thought I'd bring that up. Thank you. Thank you for this report and your presentation. All of us who are part of this Superior Country, you provide us with a great service from, like you said, Silver Islet to Manitowoc, or that whole area that you cover. So again, thank you very much. We appreciate all the work that you do. And we hope you have a Merry Christmas. Is there a mover and seconder for motion to receive the 2020-2021 annual report from Superior Country? Councillor Gladden, Councillor Smith, all in favor? All hands rising, motion's carried. The minutes of the last regular meeting on December 5th are at items 5.1 of the agenda. Are there any errors or omissions to note in the minutes? Seeing none, can I have a mover and seconder for a motion to approve the minutes? Councillor Smith, Councillor Gladden. All in favor? All hands rising, motion's carried. Minutes of the last special meeting, December 12th, are at items 5.2 of the agenda. Are there any errors or omissions to note in the minutes? Seeing none, can I have a mover and seconder for motion to approve the minutes? Councillor Gladden, Councillor Smith. All in favor? All hands rising, motion's carried. First item of correspondence is item 6.1 is information purposes only relating to the 2023 NOMA conference and annual general meeting. Do members of the council have any questions? Councillor Smith.
Has anyone ever attended the ones in the past and have they found value in attending?
So in Red Rock, yes, virtually, I believe was the last year, I believe through COVID, but, yes, normally they are well attended by our regional communities. And if I may say, I think they're very good conferences to attend because they're grassroots and they hit a lot of what we're going through in our region, right here in Northwestern Ontario. So, I think there's great value in attending the NOMA conference. And again, I would, let any of you know if you do have an interest, just let us know at the office and we can get you registered to the for that conference. I believe it was the 26th of April 26th to the 28th. So.
Councillor Guyton.
I'd be interested.
I will as well.
I am interested, however, I have to double check my schedule. I do have trouble with work. Sorry.
Like Mark said, we can get back to him, if once it's confirmed, if you want to go.
Yeah, and I'll
we'll
make a
reach
note
out.
on that, but if you wanted to just send an email, that would be great as well. And then I can have Whitney take care of the arrangements for registering and accommodations.
Councillor Smith.
In that they talk about sponsorship packages, is that anything to do with Red Rock? Or have we done that in the past? Is there?
Normally by attending, we will pay that. And what we do, what we would do as a community is bring kind of novelty gifts for the draws and that. So, I mean, you could be a sponsor, but more times than not, what you see from the sponsors are the corporations. Like, for example, you may see, you will see the Nuclear Waste Management Organization is usually one that comes to mind. Enbridge, some of the major companies. So our way of supporting as a community is the registration. We could, if it was the desire of council, but we would definitely send delegates as well as, I guess, for lack of better words, door prizes. We'd send Red Rock swag, kind of thing, a few little door prizes.
Okay, next item 6.2 is information purposes only regarding the news release of mining jobs in the north. Do any members of council have any questions? Yep, seeing none. 6.3 information purposes only from the Ministry of Infrastructure on the OCIF agreement with the province. Do any members of council have any questions? And what does OCIF, if you want to just say what?
Yes, the Community Infrastructure Fund. So Councillor Smith did point out a very blatant important, please do not share this, but we were given authorization to share as of Friday. So thank you for reading the package, Councillor Smith, but we are good to share the one. So it's community infrastructure, and so it allows funding for roads, bridges, water and sewer projects, that kind of thing. The good news is the Township of Red Rock is being increased by 15,000 for 2023. So we will see an additional 15,000 on above our usual allotted amount of 100. So next for 2023, we will get 115,000.
Okay, item 6.4 is information purposes only regarding the Thunder Bay District Health Unit Public Health Levy. Any members of council have any questions? No, seeing none, moving on. Next item, 7.1 are minutes from the Red Rock Public Library Board on November 8th. Do any members of council have any questions? Nope, seeing none. Is there a mover and seconder for motion to receive the minutes? Councillor Gladden. Councillor Brand. All in favor? All hands raised, motion's carried. Eight point one is a report from the Director of Operations. Do we have any questions of Mr. Westerman on his report? Councillor Brand.
So just two questions. Under your water collection, lift one station or lift station 1 and lift station 2, you've had to do some cleaning and repairs again. Are these blockages again from wipes? And are you able to, like, do you know which household it's coming from that we can, you don't? Okay. So that was my question on there. And then under your general, Public Works has scheduled a date for December 20th to repair leaking curb stop on Upper Newton. Is that the corner closest to the apartment building?
It's 21 Newton. But it's in that.
Like it's a home?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, sorry. Okay, all right, thank you.
Any other questions on his report? I don't have any, but unfortunately we had a little bit of problems with at Upper Brompton. Right,
Yeah.
in your report, so,
Yeah, and that's being looked after by the contractor.
yeah, so it's good that it's under warranty.
It's actually for that leader station at the end. It's a service link. It's not like a residence is losing water or anything, but it is important to maintain the chlorine residual at the end of the distribution there.
Okay, any other questions? No, seeing none. Is there a mover and seconder for a motion to receive the report? Councillor Brand. Councillor Smith. All in favor? All hands rising, motion's carried. Thanks, Blair. Merry Christmas to you and the crew. Next item 8.2 is report from Community Development Officer. I see you brought your water too. Okay, so she has a big report. I don't know if you want to take questions first or you want to go through it. What would you like to do? Okay, any questions, comments? Councillor Smith.
Sorry, I'm trying to sit here myself. Are there any next steps in regards to the municipal modernization online services? We know we did that whole big thing with regards to it. Is it just on the back burner now we did that, or do we have anything kind of to proceed?
So essentially that is the document that takes us, they've ended that program. So there is no implementation funding for that program anymore. So we now have to look for additional funding to start implementing it.
Right.
So the final report for this municipal modernization is due by the end of January. So I'll be completing that one. Then that project will be completely closed. There is another funding stream that is opening up the end of January, early February that I'll be exploring to see how well it actually fits with our municipal modernization, so we can start with that. It is quite the process to get it going. So once this report is done, it will essentially be doing a lot of internal behind the scenes stuff to prepare for that implementation. So a lot of it is internal policies. Hopefully that answers your question.
No, you did. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Councillor Brand.
Under your December 22nd special meeting recreation staff recommendations, our recommendations to proceed with the following, and you have these different pricing.
Is that a separate agenda item, or are we working with that now?
This is
So we're gonna deal.
with the first page.
Sorry, Councillor Brown, we'll deal with Ashley's report first, and then we'll go into the project, because I
Okay,
think
sorry.
it is two separate items, and I think it needs to be so.
Counselor Gladden.
You said that you received 49,848 for the municipal building entrance.
Yes.
What's happening with that?
So that project has just completed the design draft stage with the engineers. So that now has to go through the tendering process. And there is a funding deadline that the money has to be spent by February 16th of 2023. So that will be happening end of January, early February, that the main entrance to the municipal building will be redone. And they figure it'll be about 2 or 3 days.
Thank you very much.
Counselor Brand, did you have something? Just on this,
Yeah.
the initial report.
Well, yeah, just a simple question here. Under the fishing game, you're still awaiting documentation. Are those like the estimates and things like
Yes.
that they're looking for?
Yeah, so the Fishing Game Club has been reaching out to various companies to try and find estimates for the specialized HVAC system, which is connected to their furnace system, as well as roofing. So once they have that background information, we're then able to proceed with the application process.
Okay, any other questions? Seeing none. Is there a mover and seconder for motion to receive the report? Counselor Brand. Counselor Gladden. All in favor? All hands rising, motion's carried. Okay, next is the recommendations. So maybe take it away.
Sure. So I've included in your packages copies of the design briefs right from the engineers. So we've gone back and forth to make sure that everything was included as was supposed to be. So this is the final version of the design brief. What they've done is they've completely done an assessment of each component that was included in the initial funding scopes. Or I'm going to start with the recreation center rehabilitation. So just the recreation center itself. That one. So as you can see in the report, they've done an initial assessment of what the current conditions are, as well as their recommendations of the priority areas and what would be done to kind of solve those issues that were identified. They've provided with the construction cost estimates if we did the entire project. So we'll pull those up here. So you have in your packages a PDF version of this, but what I've also done is I have it live stream here so we can actually adjust these numbers. So what JML's done is they've provided with the cost estimates to do the entire recreation center project as it was initially applied for back in 2019. So our initial budget for this project was, we were funded up to $1.3 million. The actual with our total project being 1.8. What it's actually come into to complete the entire project is about $3.2 million. This also includes a contingency fund. So that's that 20% of the eligible project costs. In case something goes wrong or you open something up, there's a can of worms, additional things need to be fixed in order to proceed. So that's an additional 20%. That's standard for any construction projects that you're applying for. That 20% is an eligible project cost that can be funded if you're within that funding range. This bonds, insurance, mobilization, demobilization, they throw that in there as well. Doesn't always equal 20%, but you aim high, hope low. So this is what our municipal portion initially, we were looking at $480,000 for this project, plus the non-refundable. If we did everything that we had initially applied for, our portion would be over $2 million. So part of that is due to the initial cost estimates that we received were incredibly low based off of 2019 numbers. inflation, supply chain, as well as additional issues that have come up along the way, one of which being the foundation and waterproofing. A lot of these numbers were, I'm going to say, at least 10 to 15% too low of what they should have been from the estimates that we received. So saying that, JML, the engineering firm that was hired to do the engineering study for this, has come up with their own recommendations. So this is in your package as well. So anything in black is essentially what they've recommended that we proceed with. This top portion here, the engineering, ice resurfacer, and signage, is stuff that we're tied into. So we've entered into a contract with JML Engineering for this amount. We've already purchased the ice resurfacer, so there's no going back on that. That was purchased before any of the ice plant issues went down. There was also a year-long delivery on that. So the ice resurfacer was actually ordered in February of last year, I believe, or February of this year. So we got it ahead of schedule. Signage is mandatory for any project. So these numbers don't change. JML is recommending the exterior walls. So this is that area right outside the Golden Club room. There's no point fixing the Golden Club room floor if we don't solve the leak in the wall. Insulation and siding would essentially be the rest of the building. So it's all red and insulated, which would hopefully help with energy costs. And exterior light replacement, which is a health and safety issue. Next, the Brompton Road entrance has some serious damage and structural issues. That's a top priority for JML as well. The accessible doors would be the Baker Road entrance doors. They would be newer doors that are accessible, barrier-free, and a bit better quality. So you have a bit more insulation there, minimizing heat loss. That set of doors into the lobby that's now closed with the chain. So that would be a barrier-free door as well. And then the interior door replacement. So that's the doors heading into the arena closest to the Brompton entrance and the Golden Club room doors. And then an additional emergency light. So if the doors heading into the arena by Brompton were made accessible, that redone, you would have to move the emergency light that's there. So that additional $3,500 is to move that emergency light. They're recommending not to touch the pool. Just to get the pool up and running, you're looking at $550,000. So they're recommending that at this time, focus on areas of the building that are being used the most. One of the other top priorities, according to JML, was the parking lot. So complete excavation. This also includes excavating the 2 frost boils that we get, the great big humps that show up around the hydro pole in the middle of the parking lot. Granular A and B, paving the parking lot, additional light standards to meet current lighting code for parking lots, and then a sanitary pipe replacement. So there's, I believe, 17 feet long. There's a section of sanitary pipe that was located in underneath the parking lot, just outside of the curling club and the restaurant, that has a section that needs to be replaced. So they've included that in there. As they're digging up the area, might as well do this sanitary pipe as well. So if all items were done with JML, the base of what JML is recommending, we're at $1.2 million difference from the original eligible cost of 542. So this is how much room we would have to work with if we did JML's recommendations as a baseline. So our municipal portion would be $144,000 under budget. So that's kind of like what we're looking at to work with if we completed all JML's recommendations. So what staff have come up with between Mr. Westerman, Mr. Figilomini, and myself is kind of what we feel as staff would be the top priorities to be addressed, but ultimately it is council's decision. Everything on this list has been approved under the funding scope, except for the ice plant, which we'll get into as a discussion. So staff is recommending that we move ahead with the exterior walls. We move ahead with the Brompton Road entrance. Instead of doing all of the accessible doors, we focus on the Baker Road entry. So entry into the building would be accessible. The thing that we can do, so just kind of an explanation, what we decide on is what will be tendered. So what goes out to hire the general contractor for the general contractor scope of work. What we can do is put in provisionary items. So in the event that we don't end up spending all of that contingency cost, we can add, say, the additional doors in as if there's money left over, we want this done too. So we can kind of prioritize what those provisionary items would be. Internal staff is also recommending not to move ahead with the pool. For the gymnasium, our focus is on the ventilation system. The floor is in good enough shape that we can continue using it. The ventilation system would allow it to be used comfortably year round. As of now, you hit May, it's a sauna and basically unusable in the gymnasium upstairs. So better temperature control regulation up there. For the arena, the evaporative condenser unit, as well as the arena header system, we're recommending that we do not proceed with the curling header system or the curling brine pump. And the furnace ductwork heater replacement in the change room. So that's the dressing rooms 1 and 2 at the far end, close by the opposite end of the Zambonin. Now the ice plant, this was not included in our initial project scope. We've estimated at about $100,000 to get it done. This would still have to go through the tendering process, so the ice plant wouldn't get touched until after July 1st of 2023. If we did go this route to include it into this funding stream. It's an easier sell because you need the ice plant to work in order for the header system to work. So you kind of need one. The real option with this one is if we're going to spend the money, we just have to pick where it's going to come out of. If we have $100,000 from another funding stream, that allows us to pick another item off of this list or two that we know is guaranteed funded because it's in the original scope. So that's where we still have a little bit of flexibility. The Golden Club room, prioritizing the flooring, as well as a new receptacle above the counter. We've added the millwork, which is essentially all of new cupboards as a provisionary item. And then for the bowling alley, the lane and approach synthetic overlay. This will, if we add the automatic scoring system, we're looking at about $105,000 for the automatic scoring system. If we go with the automatic scoring system route, we will have to remove the lanes. We can't do an overlay because the wiring would actually go underneath the lane, which would move this to about $100,000 rather than 75. And then there is a section in the pictures area in the appendix A, there was a picture of some concrete spalling in the ceiling of the bowling alley. That's about $10,000. So to focus on that. And we've changed the parking lot. We've almost eliminated that completely, except for the light standards as a health and safety issue. And that would put us at $3,900 over the initial budget, which would then be eaten up by the township. By the time you add in our non-refundable portion of HST, the township's total would be $515,000. So that's a breakdown of what internal staff is recommending to council of what we focus on. If there are, because this is live, I can plug in items if you say, what does it look like if we do this and not do this? So we can take a look at the bottom line if that's something you would like to do, or if you're in agreement with what we've presented to council.
Councillor Smith has a question.
You have provisionary there for the bowling lane automatic scoring system. Is there any point in having it there? Because if we just go with the lane approach synthetic overlay, then there's no point in doing the automatic scoring system because you're just throwing away the money you just did, because you just said you have to tear it up, right?
Yeah,
So that's just
you
my-
would have to do
why.
both.
Yeah,
If you did the automatic scoring system, you would have to redo the lanes.
so I guess what I'm saying is if the money's not there, why not just remove the automatic scoring system completely? Because there's not gonna be a point in having it if you're just gonna have to tear up what you already did. I'm just saying, because there's better uses for the money elsewhere, clearly. But that's just my 2 cents.
So it all comes back to what the tenders, like what they come back with, right? Like what the full cost.
So
Of
this is what they've
each.
estimated as the full cost. They do inflate those a little bit. But it will all depend on what the tender comes back as. If the bidders determine that they can do this project for a little bit less, and there's money left over based on what they bid on that allows us to do the automatic scoring system, then we can add that in as a provisionary item, like, okay, let's do this too. So they provide costs on any of the items that we list as provisionary. We just give them give the successful bidder the okay to do it. So essentially by saying it's a provisionary item, we're like, provide us with a cost on this as well, just in case.
Councillor Smith?
So would it make sense then to have a note then for line 52 to say that if we do the automatic scoring system, then that line item will be $100,000 by 75,000, just so it's shown, so we don't forget and we know.
Okay.
I'm just curious.
So,
I only say that so it's kind of a little bit more clear to us if we're looking at if this gets done, then we're gonna increase the cost here. And then my other question too, with regards to the parking lot, was those excavation granite BA and the asphalt, are those nothing to do with health and safety? That doesn't affect anything. So that's
No.
why we're good for getting rid of those.
yeah. The excavation was really just to get rid of the frost boils there, but there's no real, it's more of just to specifically delineate spaces, because right now, the way it's set up, we don't actually meet the number of accessible spots that are actually delineated for the number of spots that are in the parking lot area. So if you identify spaces, a certain portion of those have to be labeled as accessible. Right now, it's kind of free for all parking. You have one accessible on this side, you have one accessible on the Baker Road entrance, you have one accessible on the Brompton Road entrance.
Councillor Gladden?
Yes, just to check on your arena curling rink. I don't know. I know it's piddly, but it's a $2,000 difference.
Yeah.
By
Which,
right, that one, it's because the original arena subtotal was 563, and you're taking out the 800,000. So it should be it's different there.
is the total of all of
I don't know why it's not that, but I mean, in there,
Okay.
when you add it up, like the 8 and 5 is 3. Okay, so they had 563. Even in their JML had 4. Should be 463.
Yeah, it is there. And that's a formula.
Okay, 460. Okay, well, maybe I'm wrong, but I just.
No,
I
like
adding it
you're
up.
definitely right, but that's weird that the formula did that. Oh, so this one, because it's in red, is not included in that value.
No.
So anything like with our staff recommendations, anything in red is not included in the running total.
Oh, okay,
So when we do our actual, if we proceeded with anything in black, this is how much it would cost us.
okay, sorry, I just. Okay.
Yeah, and I think I could just add, if I may, that we have parameters to work with this funding. There's been a lot of work to going into bringing this. You saw where it was if we followed the original scope that was applied for. And in saying that, I'll use an example, say, of the Golden Club room, where if we could secure that leak, which is high priority for us, and then you look at then changing the floor in this part of the funding. I mean, we can then go look for additional smaller pots of funding, say, to finish the cupboard area and that. So I think this is a focus. This has been a big focus on securing the building, stopping water from coming into areas that it's really hampering our building. I mean, we have the Golden Club room out of use right now. Basically, it's unsafe, right? So what this does is it secures our building. That Brompton Street entrance is very close to being non-usable right now, right? So that addresses that as well. So what you're seeing here is some really good and creative work to save a project that really was upside down, for lack of better words. So I mean, this is, we think, the best way to secure the building and still provide good value from the funding and the original scope that we have.
Focusing on the areas that we use and our community members use the most.
Councillor Smith.
Just one follow-up question. We have in there the municipal portion of being after HST 515, 816, I think it was.
Yes.
Do we foresee any issues with meeting that funding right now, or will that become an issue as well? Especially if we have to go over the 20% asbestos or anything.
So that's where that 20% comes in, is
I know I'm saying if we go over that.
if we go over that 20%, does the township have the money to pay for that?
Yeah.
So I think to answer your question, Councillor Smith, we've done a lot of work in the last year and a half to make sure that we can cover that funding. I guess I could say there wasn't really funding there to cover that, but I'm confident with some work that we've done in the last little bit and some work we're doing right now with Infrastructure Ontario, a community infrastructure debenture program, as well as and I will give a shout out to our local Northern Credit Union, who's went above and beyond to help us through not just this project, but also the water and sewer upgrade for the municipality. So I guess to answer your question at that number, I mean, I'm comfortable with the fact that we can manage the township portion on that.
Perfect, thank you.
So the nice thing with this funding is that we can use our portion, our 26.67% can come from the municipality plus the OCIF fund plus gas tax fund. So there's other pools of money that can go towards this. It doesn't have to come directly out of municipal coffers.
Councillor Smith wants to know if we're talking about the roof after.
Yes.
Yep, no problem. Well, we know when this was submitted, because we have been denied recreation, right? We've been trying for the bowling alley for, I don't know, forever, it seems like. And now that we have all this money, I'm really, it's tugging on me that we're not getting the scoreboard and stuff, right? Like, this is our one chance. We finally have money to get it all. So I'm really hoping that the tender comes in our favor.
So it would
And-
essentially be, if you want this $105,000 included in here, what are you willing to take out? In the event that anything doesn't, what else would you be comfortable with that gets moved to provisionary in order to cover the automatic scoring system? And once again, this is on the high end.
And or are you willing to
Yeah.
absorb as a municipal cost and direct
That-
us at some point to find a way to to pay for that. So again, why we're putting this in front of you for this exact reason and this discussion. But certainly so noted on that.
No, well, we need everything else. We need the arena. Right? We need,
Yeah.
like, we need everything here. It's just unfortunate that, the one thing I was hoping for, but, right, needs and wants,
Yeah.
needs and wants,
Of
right?
what, and it's like what gets used the most versus
That's right.
the building itself.
Yeah, that's what it comes down to.
So, and it could even be like a couple, that entrance. Essentially half the day. There's the wall repairs essentially have to be done in order to do the Golden Club room. Do we want to hold off on the exterior wall insulation and siding in case there's a green initiative, or do we want to do that now? So it's those types of things. Do we take out the accessibility?
Yeah.
Like the doors are, this is the actuators and so the power buttons and wider doors. The ventilation system, this right now, this is kind of the, do you want to go with the gymnasium and have it used during the summer, or do you want to go for the bowling alley scoring system? Because they're roughly the same amount. So you're at the point of picking and choosing.
And I think a good thing to remember, Mayor Robinson, is, I mean, they are tough decisions, but I would feel really comfortable again going at a smaller project like the scoring system as an isolated project after, just showing the benefit it has to the community. I think if we secured the building and focused on that, I mean, I would have no trouble, and I'm not going to say Ashley could get it because we never say we can, but we could certainly chase smaller projects like that, showing. I mean, look what the bowling alley does for our community. I mean, we have bowling going 5 nights a week in the community right now. I mean, I don't think we'd have a hard sell to try to get that.
The bowling alley would be harder to get funding for than the gymnasium. There are a lot more recreation funding streams available that would support the flooring, basketball, etc. in the gymnasium than there would be for the bowling alley.
And I guess
So
the bowling,
that's, when you're looking at funding streams, what they'll fund, the information you need behind them to get them, the gymnasium would be a lot easier to apply for and be successful at than the bowling alley. The bowling alley has had at least 7 applications go in to try and get funded for scoring systems and like the whole shebang.
and I guess when I think about it in saying that we would, if you were to do the bowling alley, you'd want to do it now because of the ripping up the, so it wasn't really a great example when I think.
So
After I thought about it.
essentially what this is showing now is the gymnasium floor, which we could potentially, I'm very enthusiastic that we would be able to get the money to do the gymnasium as a whole, then the likelihood of us getting money to do the bowling alley based off of previous funding experience.
Can you show us what it would look like if we have the bowling alley, the electric system, like the electronic system without the gym? Because if you're thinking like right now, the recreation center isn't open in the summertime. Our goal is to, right, have programming.
So one or the other, correct? Okay. What is it? 37.
You would have to have the extra number for the flooring.
So what-
$100,000, not 75.
What this does with this formula is it automatically, so this number now includes this. So because this total now includes the automatic scoring system, it updates this total here.
What I'm trying to refer to is you said that the lane approach would go
Oh,
up to
sorry, yes.
$100,000, not 75,000.
Sorry, yes, you are correct.
And these are on the high end.
Yes,
Like there could be a possibility we get
it could-
both there could be a possibility we switch the one to provisionary,
Mhm.
and change, and there's still a possibility we get them both.
Right.
Yeah.
But
So
Councillor Smith.
I like the automated scoring system because nobody likes making scores. However, I do think that the gym needs that ventilation system. Just because my kids will use it. I know people say that they're not here in the summertime, but I'm here in the summertime. And I see a lot of people here.
Anyone else? Questions, comments?
I was
So
with
Brand.
Michael, I believe going with the gymnasium ventilation system.
$75. Yeah.
then that is with the. So that. There is 50 plant. Take me further at the funding stage. Because it's not already in scope, that's something that we would also have to. So as an example, if we use $200,000 for the ice plant. We get paid through the OCIS fund. Sorry, so if the ice plant, we took that out and used the OCIF fund, that would then free up $100,000 to be used towards something else. So this ice plant actually has to go through a scope change process if we want to add it into this project. So once again, it's essentially the same thing. We take out the ice plant and add in the system and we're back to the $45,000 difference.
But that number for the ice plant is essential to having ice. So
Yes.
one way or the other, we need, if we want to include the arena as a top priority, which we have determined through council that one way or the other, we have to fund that 100,000. So that's why we we thought this is a good approach to go. It's kind of in one hand with the other. I mean, if you're spending on one with funding dollars, I mean, it's something else it's kind of like similar to this, right? If you take something out, or if you put something in, you're giving up something else, right? So.
But this item wasn't part of the original project scope, to keep in mind. So if this was used with a different pool of money, we're back to this being. Then that's where we fit. If the ice plant gets funded by a different funding stream, we don't have to go through the scope change. And we add the bowling alley in there. The thing to consider is everything that's been approved, we can move forward on, even if the new project scope hasn't been approved yet. So the only thing, if we did decide to move ahead with the ice plant as part of this stream, there's no guarantee that we're going to get the money for it. But because it's a key part of the arena, which was a key part of this funding application, there's really no reason for them to say no. But it's also that another fund can be used to pay for that, to make room for another component of the rec center. Yeah. The bowling alley, which was in the original scope.
Any other questions or comments? Councillor Smith.
If we're gonna put, a percentage to this, what's the likelihood of getting the funding for the ice plant outside of this, and we moved to the automated scoring system? Like, what are the chances of them saying no is? Because that's kind of how we would base our decision on realistically,
Yeah.
we would hate to go forward with the scoring system.
Yeah.
And then losing our ice.
Right.
Like, what's the whole point of all this?
So applying through another funding stream, just for that purpose, we would end up having to do a whole other recreation funding stream. That $100,000 would have to come through something with money that the municipality is already approved for, like the community infrastructure fund or the gas tax fund. So it then adds the list of items that could potentially be used for that money, and prioritizing that wish list for OCIF or CCB.
So basically, if we use another fund, we're losing something regardless. Correct?
Depends on what else is on that list.
Yeah. And then what's the time frame for that? Say if we use the funding from something else, how likely would that, well, how would that affect the timeline of getting the ice plant put in? Like, would it push it back?
You still have to go through the tender process, get the company in
So
here.
basically, it's best to probably keep it in here and move forward with how we have it.
Honestly, it would be the same amount of time. Like if we used the OCIF fund and went to Finco, I'm not depending on what their timeline is to do it. It's,
So it wouldn't affect timelines, what you're trying to say.
no, if we went through
But-
this, timeline would be affected. If
Yeah.
we went through OCIF, I'm not sure how fast people can get back to us to actually do it. You may end up with it being done in February and you have a month of ice time.
I'd just be more.
If we went through, I think probably what Ashley's saying is if we decided today that we were going to use CCBF, which is federal gas tax, and or OSIF, for example, those are two pools of money that the community gets for individual projects similar to this, but we could move with that tomorrow. But again, that's money we can't spend somewhere else if there was a project. If we include it into this, it has to be applied for a scope change. They could ultimately come back and say no. And then we could take that additional money that we still have and spend it on something in the project. Correct?
Yes.
And
So the only thing that I want to say with that is because we're taking so much out of this out, you don't want to take out too much. Then they're not happy.
and
So
Dan,
because the bowling alley is already in there and the ice plant's in addition, if you're taking a whole bunch of stuff out and you want to add something in, it's a little bit harder to do.
To answer your question, we don't know.
You have an idea of what they like and what they don't like, but you can't give a for sure answer.
As I said, they have a scope and they have a financial ceiling on what we're allotted. So we're not looking to go outside the financial ceiling, so that, but we are looking to change a scope. So I think Ashley's right on with what she's presenting. The arena probably would be something that we would be able to tie in based on other work that needs to be done. But we can't guarantee it. To answer your question on timeline, this still would project, we would still be projected under this timeline to have an ice season. Even, because if this didn't get approved, we could go to an option B.
Mhm.
If it did, it's still going to it's still going to be part of the tendering document, right? And
Yeah.
then we can make a decision from that.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Okay, is there a mover and seconder for motion? Oh, is there a mover and seconder for motion to accept the recommendations as directed by council?
What is your clear direction then?
Your original staff one
Okay.
report. Yeah,
So with no automatic scoring system and the ice plant included.
it's all provisionary. Yeah.
Okay.
So the document as presented is what's on the table.
Yeah.
Okay.
Should I rephrase that? Is there a mover and seconder for motion to accept the recommendation as presented? And directed by council? Yeah, okay. Councillor Smith. Councillor Brand. All in favor? All hands rising, motion's carried.
The confusing part is it's two projects, so we still have another project to go through.
So similarly to the overhaul of the recreation center, JML has proceeded with presented a design brief for the roofing section, which is between the restaurant and the curling club, so that hallway section. This was funded under the ICIP COVID resiliency stream, which is a flat $100,000. Put it into your rec center. We initially went for the arena roof for upgrades on that. That was nowhere near what was needed to do the arena roof. So we decided to deal with the next area of the recreation center that was in dire need of repair, which is the section that currently leaks. So this engineering, consulting, and signage is what has already been agreed upon to be paid for the engineering, and signage is a requirement. So JML has also presented, if we went with all of the sections that are included in the design brief, there should have been diagrams included as well. So you can identify what sections of the recreation center we're addressing. If all sections were completed, we would be, the township would be on the hook for $138,000. JML recommends focusing on the main area, which is causing the most issues as in the most dire need of repair, which is the roof section 2, which is over the change rooms, and the hallway, which is currently leaking. And they said if you have another option, do roof 4, which is another section right over the washrooms from the curling club area. That would put the township on the hook for $38,000. And then our staff recommendation is to move ahead with that. So if we just did roof 2 and hoping that solves all of the leaking issues, the township is on the hook for 38. If we go with the top 2, roofs 2 and 4, the township is on the hook for 67.
Councillor Smith.
I don't like spending money. However, if we're spending over $1 million to fix the interior of everywhere in this, in the recreation center, why would we not fix all of the roofs? And if we don't fix all the roofs, down the road at some point in time, we could be ruining what we just fixed.
So the area that this is covering is not being addressed whatsoever by the rehabilitation project. This is a section of the building that is completely outside of the working area of the rehabilitation project.
So that, no, nothing will.
Nothing is being-
Nothing.
Nothing. Roof 3 is the ice plant. That wasn't brought forward as a major concern by JML. All of this entire section will have to be done at some point. But right now, this is kind of what should have been fixed yesterday.
So the ice plant, that's what we're planning on fixing, correct?
No,
That's not in the previous ice plant, that wasn't the ice plant?
the ice plant itself, yes, was that additional piece. So the ice plant, yes, but this section of roof is lower down the priority list of sections that need to be done. So priority 1 would be roof 2. Priority 2 would be roof 4. Priority 3 would be roof 5, then 6. Then 3. Sorry, those are dollar amounts.
Are we saying then there's no issues with the roof above any of the rehabilitation areas that we're planning on doing?
No, they
That wasn't part of the scope of this?
No, this one was just that specific section.
Just
because
those
it-
thick sections?
Yes, because that's where existing leaks were occurring. The arena came in at over $1.5 million to do that properly, which was way out of the scope of this. The section over the gymnasium wasn't an area of concern, and the section over the bowling alley wasn't an area of concern. That had been done when the no. Late 90s, I believe. And it's all EPDM. So which is like a plastic membrane barrier. And there haven't been any issues in those areas as present in terms of leaks. These areas were the sections that have been leaking for several years.
I know what the current status of that roof is, so I understand that it's a big chunk in our portion, our portion,
Mhm.
but it does need repair, so.
And with it being infrastructure, municipal infrastructure as well, that's where it does fall under some of these other funds as well. So the question really is, how much over do you want to go? Pardon?
Mayor Robbins, what roof were you speaking to there? One that's in the project or one that isn't currently?
Curling club, the main hallway and change rooms by the curling rink.
Okay,
So this
Yeah.
is what it would cost if we did absolutely everything. Once again, with that 20% contingency.
I'm in favor of the staff recommend, like the staff portion. Sorry, that's what I meant.
JML is just that priority area, which may or may not solve all of the issues. So that's why staff has recommended roofs 2 and roofs 4. As that's what we believe are the top 2 priorities. If we're going to do 2 roofs, those are the 2 to do. Which takes us to 67.
Is there funding opportunities, you think, down the road to fix the rest?
again, we can look at every opportunity that's out there.
going through this process, this already gives us an upper hand because we know what the state is. We have the engineering drawings to go along with it. There is one funding stream that I have in mind that this could possibly go into if we wanted to do the rest of them. It's also timelines. By the time you go through the application process, approval, legal agreements, nothing's going to get done for another year and a half. So that's partially why we suggested these two pieces, because everything else can last for another year and a half.
So I
These ones
think,
could as well, but how much water do you want into the building?
so I think what we are presenting to you is, again, the security of the building, right? And then what we can do under the original scope on the inside with the full intention of, obviously, if you're investing this much money into the building, of continuing it, right? And I think actually just it's what we want to spend now, what council's comfortable with us going over. Again, this is a capped funding piece at $100,000. So, and you see, so internally as well as with JML, we determined that, we know roof 2 and 4 are known issues. In saying that, it's like anything else. You could see a leak in roof 3 in a month. You don't know, right? We're trying to present you with the best possible options, and still as staff be able to manage financially. That's what we're doing. We know that the building is tired and could use additional work. As you can see, this is kind of the rules we're allowed to play with under this funding stream. And I think we've Ashley has put together, along with Blair and myself, very good way to spend the allowed money that we have, and a little bit of municipal contribution. And of course, it's never easy to come back and say that there's pieces of a project that you can't do, because I know it will disappoint some people, but really this took significant amount of work to get here, and it's where we are.
Any other questions or comments? So are we passing a motion to accept this?
So what we'd be looking for is so we need that clear direction by resolution to be able to put this document out for tender based on the recommendations. Again, the provisions or anything else, we can build that in later if required, if there is funding room, I guess would be the best way to put it. And then we go to work, trying to find additional ways to get the building improved even more, right? That's, but I think in smaller, once we get this, I think the key, this is my opinion and the direction that we've talked about. I mean, attacking these as smaller projects. And I would say, even if it was $100,000 into that floor of the gym, I consider that to be a smaller project for a municipality our size to manage, right? So when you look at this project at 1.3 or 1.8 million when it's done, and then the recent project we had at $2.8 million, the pressure it's put on internally is significant, right? It's we really need to be able to manage. I guess the best way it was put to me was recently, sometimes government money you have to say no to. You just do, because you have to be able to manage your projects internally. This is the best way to save this project, I truly believe.
Okay. Is there a mover and seconder for a motion to approve the recommendation to proceed with roof repairs based on the staff report? Councillor Gladden. Councillor Smith. All in favor? All hands rising, motion's carried.
You. So that is.
Thank you, Ashley, for all that.
Woody, do you want to take that over?
Oh, sorry, congratulations on. Chair of the Spirit Country. Okay. And Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. Okay, next item,
Thanks, Adam.
8.3, report on administrative activity. Do any members of council have any questions? Seeing none. Is there a mover and seconder for motion to receive the report? Councillor Gladden. Councillor Smith. All in favor? All hands rising, motion's carried. Okay, next item 8.4 is a report on council committees and department representatives. Do members of council have any questions of administration?
Was the beautification supposed to be underneath that a big umbrella one, or is it separate? That big umbrella.
Well, we left, and the direction I believe was we were leaving that one and we were going to work on umbrellaing, putting that larger piece together as an umbrella, but we left and I thought that was the direction to leave the beautification without as it. Yeah.
No, because it's always been a standalone
Right,
under the
yeah.
municipality. So yeah, that's why we. Okay. Is there a mover and seconder for motion to appoint the following members of council as department and committee reps? Do you want me to read them all out? Administrative Finance, Mayor Robinson. Public Works, Mayor Robinson. Fire Department, Councillor Smith. Beautification, Mayor Robinson. Deputy Mayor, Councillor Muir. Mover, seconder, anyone? Councillor Brand. All in favor? All hands rising, motion's carried. Thank you. 8.4 or 8.5 is a report on the cancellation of the first council meeting in January. Do members of council have any questions of administration? Due to when the fall holidays fall and also government being out, that's usually why we cancel that first meeting. Okay. Mover and seconder for motion to approve the cancellation of the January 2nd meeting 2023. Councillor Gladden. Councillor Smith. All in favor? All hands rising, motion's carried. Eight point six is a report on a donation to the Wall of Remembrance. Do members of council have any questions of Mr. Figurini? Seeing none, is there a mover and seconder for motion to approve an advertisement in the National Wall of Remembrance in partnership with the Red Rock Legion in the amount of $200? Because that's our half. Councillor Brand, Councillor Smith. All in favor? All hands rising, motion's carried. Okay, next item, 8.7, report on a sale agreement for a 2015 backhoe. Do members of council have any questions? Councillor Brand.
Did we get any other quotes on these machines?
Yeah, so we did extensive work, numerous quotes. We've been at this process for about a year. Mr. Westerman and myself. So we've had multiple quotes on used machines. We've had multiple quotes on new machines. This was the direction we felt the best way to go, and the recommendation we're making based on a couple of scenarios. New machines are completely overpriced at the moment and way out of our budget. Plus the turnaround on timing is, and Blair might be able to help me, but we might be looking at 13 months for delivery of a new unit. So we've been working with the local dealers in Thunder Bay. This unit is actually in Quebec somewhere, I believe, and is a John Deere product at a sister Brandt dealer. So we've had it looked over. Again, it is the best option right now that we can see, and at the best price.
You did have money set aside in this year's budget in case we were able to get something sooner, correct?
Yes. So when you look at, you're correct. When you look at where we are on this one after the refundable portion of the HST, we'd be netting in around the 90. I think it's $95,000 or $97,000 range of our municipal cost. That includes the HST, as I said, and then we make an application to get our percentage back, as well as the trade-in of our original unit. So in order to secure this, because that is another big piece of it, we've tried to secure a few different units over the last, and if you don't make a decision on them that day, they're usually gone by the time you can call back. So having a council meeting coming close to this, I did sign the agreement, and you can see in large letters as well as in quotations is pending approval of council. So technically I've signed to purchase it, but can get out based on the decision of council tonight. So, and yes, we did have money budgeted last year for this purchase. It wasn't, we budgeted, I believe, $80,000 to that, but we will see, we will, that amount won't be spent because we won't see this unit now until probably, well, by the time we see it, will be the first part of January 2023. And after COVID and the way the market has went since, we feel this is a really good deal for the township and much needed. We're running into current issues again with our current unit. So, I mean, just as a backup, we only had 2 working gears. We're having trouble with those now as well. It's time, and there is a picture there of the unit. It's much needed. This is what Blair will refer to as our Swiss Army knife in Red Rock. We use this piece of equipment every day, every season, and this is the recommendation.
Any other, okay, Councillor Brown.
Just a quick question. So if we went forward and purchased this, who maintains it?
Well, like just general maintenance would, a lot of that happens right with our guys. We have actually a very, a good crew of guys who really have the knack mechanically to do that regular maintenance. With this purchase being from Brandt and being a John Deere unit, they have a service right here in the area in Thunder Bay. Another big positive to the John Deere brand was the fact that we currently have all the attachments for our unit. So any of the attachments we have, whether they're bucket extensions or multiple attachments, I'm not sure, Blair, we might have 4 or 5. Yeah, so they will fit this current unit as well. So that's another big reason that John Deere is and Brandt.
Okay, is there a mover and seconder for a motion to approve the purchase of a 2015 410L John Deere backhoe from Brandt Equipment in the amount of $111,870, including HST and trade-in value of our current 2008 unit? Councillor Gladden. Councillor Smith. All in favor? All hands rising, motion's carried. The next item, 9.1, the amended bylaw to formulate an emergency management plan. Do members of council have any questions of administration? Councillor Smith.
I don't know if it's a question or a comment. Last time we spoke about this, I did mention that we needed to have it mentioned in the document for an alternate for Mayor Robinson. So looking over the document, I know on page 13, there's a section for it where we could have it. I'm just suggesting that we do have that in there since this document is shared with everybody, so they do know who to contact. My other follow-up would be the appropriateness of having the contact information of the personnel that have roles and responsibilities with regards to this document also be included. Again, since this will be sitting with, Thunder Bay and Nipigon and everybody in between, that when they go to open up this document and look at it, they have to contact somebody based on priority. It's easily available. They don't have to go searching anywhere else for it. That's just my statement.
So I'll tackle that in the way it was asked on two questions. I agree on the clear designate. Mayor Robinson and I she can share with me who she wants to appoint to that position. And then we can make that quite readily available right within the emergency plan. That's not a problem. And I think a good idea based on the fact that we had that alternate clearly defined, whether that is the deputy mayor or whether that's that is again a discussion the mayor can have with myself. We can make those changes. We would not necessarily have to bring this back. We would just include those changes. And then the second part of that question, certainly have no, so there's two parts to the emergency management plan. So there's the official document that goes out, and then there's the internal document. So all of those numbers are included on the internal document. You are correct. They're not on the external document. Could they be? Certainly. One of the main reasons they're not, from what I gather and what I've learned, is it's very important if you are in an emergency situation, and it was highlighted at our tabletop exercise last week in Nipigon, that you do have one spokesperson for the community. That is Mayor Robinson. So what you don't want in that situation is information that's getting out there that isn't from that one main person. In saying that, I would certainly have no trouble adding my contact information and or phone number to that document and I can't speak for the mayor, but I'm sure if that was the case, I mean, we could include those names and numbers on the front end of the document. More times than not, we'd be calling out, but generally speaking, yeah, if it saves somebody the chance of Googling, but that's generally why they don't leave it on there. So if we were to get into an emergency situation in Red Rock, the first point of contact would be myself as CAO and CAMC. And at that point, we would, Mayor Robinson would take over as the main spokesperson for the community and should be the only person speaking in that, unless she she transfers that role to say a deputy mayor and or the CAO, right? So, but if that's something, we can easily add that as well, that contact information, without bringing it back. It wouldn't have to come back for approval, but we could add those contacts if that was required, if that was suggested or the will of council. That would be no problem.
The internal emergency plan as well has everyone listed: EMS, fire, OPP, police, you name it, OPG, all of that. And because there is turnover, you don't want to have to keep bringing back the emergency plan itself. Like that's. So I don't know when you're saying like the full list, is it just like our municipal staff or like the whole plan itself?
I'm just referring to the minute to like our municipal staff. So say that the CEMC, yourself, your alternate, and maybe even just the alternate of the CEMC, just for ease of contact, as they will be the primary people. I'm not saying everybody. And in regards to turnover, I do understand that, although these are living documents and they should be reviewed on a basis as well anyways. During that review process, we could change those contact details. That's just in my experience from other similar documentation.
Yeah, and like I said, we can make that change to the document, the will of council. I mean, it's not hard to do. I mean, we do have management as you know, who has our phones are township phones, so that's no problem. You're not putting, I wouldn't suggest we put anybody who had a personal phone, but the email is the property of the township as well. So I'd have no trouble with that. And I guess we can address that if that is the will of council. We can make those changes. We can advise you that we've made them and certainly don't have to bring it back for approval based on any or even adding a designate member. We wouldn't have to bring that back.
Okay, so I guess if some members would like to have some type of contact list added to the emergency plan, I guess it would be make sure the municipal phone numbers are in their email addresses of CEMC, I guess the fire department, mayor.
Yeah, and just
What
a
do you think of that?
direction is fine. I mean,
Yep. Councillor.
Does the council will get an emergency plan, will we not? Like for the township?
not necessarily. I mean, it
Separate-
is in staff and it is members that of the internal team of the CEMC. So that's, but you do see copies, right? And yeah, I mean, yeah.
It's just that I always have had a copy, so I just forgot who had it. Sorry.
Again, if that was a will of council, we could certainly, but let's hope we never get to an emergency situation in Red Rock, but let's prepare that we will and be prepared for it. And I think what we have done is put together a very good group if we do get there.
Okay, is there a mover and second? Councillor Brand?
So is under mayor, is it going to be / deputy mayor, or are you just going to leave that as mayor? That was, I believe, one of Councillor Smith's other questions.
Yeah, we can add deputy mayor. Okay, is there a mover and seconder for motion to approve the bylaw as amended? Councillor Smith. Councillor Gladden. All in favor? All hands rising, motion's carried. Okay, next items on the agenda are 11.1 to 11.5 under unfinished business. Do any members of council have any questions? Okay, seeing none. Okay, time being 8:37. We do have to go back into closed session. So can I have a mover and seconder for motion to go into closed session? Councillor Gladden. Councillor Smith. All in favor? All hands rising, motion's carried. Council discussed some legal matters in closed session. That's what I can report. Next item is the bylaw to confirm proceedings of council. May I have a mover and seconder for motion to pass the bylaw? Councillor Brand. Councillor Gladden. All in favor? All hands rising, motion is carried. Just want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Stay safe. Time being 8:58. No further business to attend to. The meeting is adjourned.